Sony started to fully embrace content creators with the launch of the ZV-E1 in 2020, and has since added no less than 4 models to the ZV lineup. The latest, and most capable by far, is the 12-megapixel full-frame ZV-E1. It's based on the $3,500 A7S III, a video-focused low-light marvel, and comes with the same sensor and video specs. However, the ZV-E1 costs $1,300 less, so it's missing key functions like an electronic viewfinder, dual high-speed card slots, mechanical shutter, and more. Surprisingly though, the ZV-E1 has some features that the A7S III lacks. Those include valuable tricks for vloggers like auto-framing, advanced AI subject detection, and dynamic stabilization. Given all that, it's not a spoiler to say that this camera is both a mini A7S III and a powerful vlogging camera. But as you'll see, the power and innovative new features also make it a technological tour de force. The design of the ZV-E1 is radically different from the A7S III and more like Sony's A7C. The body is squat and chunky, but weighs a third less than the A7S III at 483 grams, making it Sony's smallest full-frame camera to date. The grip is also smaller, and it uses recycled plastic that feels cheaper and less grippy, but I was still able to get a firm grasp. There's a switch for photos, video, and slow and quick, each with dedicated settings. And it has a zoom rocker for supported lenses and digital zoom. It has a single control dial on top along with the rear dial. It also has a few vlogging buttons and features not found on A7 cameras, like dedicated product showcase and background to focus modes, a high quality mic, and a record light up front. Where the A7S III has the best EVF on the market, there's no viewfinder at all on the ZV-E1, something I missed when shooting on bright sunny days. The LCD fully articulates for vloggers and has some interesting new features. Those include touch functions, letting you swipe left and right to add or remove display items. You can also change key settings like shutter speed and aperture from the screen, an ideal feature for vloggers. It uses the same battery as Sony's flagship models, so you get a generous 95 minutes of 4K 30p video recording and 570 photos on a charge. Along with headphone and microphone ports, it's got a micro rather than a full-sized HDMI port, which isn't ideal for a vlogging camera. It has just a single high-speed UHS 2 card slot. Oddly, the lack of a fast CF Express Type A slot doesn't appear to limit video capture compared to the A7S III. Naturally, video specs for the ZV-E1 are impressive. At the same time, it's slightly less sharp than Sony cameras like the A7 IV. That's because 4K video up to 60p is only lightly super sampled. It can shoot native 4K at up to 120p using a 1.1 times crop and 240 frame per second ultra slow-mo video at 1080p. It has high and low quality long op options, all with 422 10-bit color depth, and like the A7S III, there's an I mode for easier editing at up to 4K 60p with 422 and 10-bit color, but requires pricey, high-speed V90 UHS 2 cards. Sony's S-Log3 boosts dynamic range to 14 plus stops, and you can preview footage using Sony's LUTs or install your own. What about overheating? Since it lacks the thermal capabilities of the A7S III, continuous recording times are shorter, particularly at 4K 60 and up. In that mode, you can expect less than an hour depending on the outside temperature. Content creators might be okay with that, but event shooters may need to look elsewhere. When it comes to autofocus, the ZV-E1 actually outshines the A7S III. It uses the AI processor introduced in the A7R5 and behaves more like that model, particularly when it comes to image tracking. It can now track human heads and bodies, not just faces and eyes. And besides people, it has specific settings for animals, birds, insects, cars, planes, and trains. Subject tracking sets a new speed and reliability standard for mirrorless cameras, nailing autofocus consistently. That's hugely important for vloggers who often work alone. AI powers other features too. The built-in microphone is now directional and can automatically aim toward the front, rear, or all around, depending on subject detection. Another lets you digitally zoom an extra 1.5 times without much noticeable loss in quality. It works with a zoom rocker and includes full subject tracking. The ZV-E1's optical stabilization gets an AI boost too. Optical only offers 5 stops, enough to smooth handheld video without much movement. Active stabilization considerably boosts performance, but adds a slight 1.1 times crop. Dynamic stabilization is new and quite remarkable. Though it adds a 1.3 times crop, it can effectively remove bouncing from footsteps, making it like using a dedicated gimbal, albeit with some loss in sharpness. It also powers 2 new features. The framing stabilizer steadies the shot and keeps the subject in the center of frame, allowing for dolly-like smoothness. Auto-framing, meanwhile, gives the illusion of camera movement. It first digitally zooms into the subject, then tracks them within the frame. You can choose a small, medium, or large crop, different tracking speeds, and more. You can even send an uncropped video to HDMI, so you have 2 versions. It also carries vlogger-centric features seen on other ZV models, including product showcase and auto depth of field. As before, breathing compensation uses a slight digital zoom to maintain constant framing when changing focus. When it comes to video sharpness, 4K 30p and 60p video is slightly softer than Sony's 30 megapixel A7 IV due to the lower resolution. On the plus side, no pixel binning means no aliasing or other ugly artifacts. The other positive aspect is far less rolling shutter than the A7 IV at the full sensor width. Apart from sharpness, image quality is superb. It delivers nearly 15 stops of dynamic range in C-Log3 mode, up there with the best mirrorless cameras. That allows for plenty of detail in dark shadows and bright highlights, even on bright or dark days. S-Log3 mode, meanwhile, gives editors room to tweak video. Sony's colors are accurate, though skin tones can lack the warmth I've seen on Canon models. The ZV-E1 can't be beat in low light. It has dual native ISOs at 640 and a whopping 12,800. That allows for low noise video all the way up to ISO 25,600 and manageable levels even at 51,200, letting you shoot by moonlight or candlelight. In fact, Sony's FX3 cinema camera with the same sensor was recently used to shoot a feature film specifically because it's so good in low light. Without an EVF or mechanical shutter, the ZV-E1 is not ideal for photography. That said, like the A7S III, it's more than competent in a pinch. The autofocus works just as well with photography and has the same features and tracking modes, so you can count on this camera to grab sharp photos, even when shooting bursts at up to 10 frames per second or in low light. It's actually a pretty good street photography camera, as it's small, silent, and discreet. And with so little skew, I rarely missed the mechanical shutter. Photo quality is outstanding, particularly in very low light. Raw images can easily be tweaked even at high ISOs, and colors are accurate and easy to adjust. The biggest drawback is again the lack of sharpness, meaning there's not a lot of room to crop into photos later on. With all that it can do, Sony's ZV-E1 is the best vlogging camera on the market, and its rivals aren't even really close. It delivers everything creators need, like 4K 120p video, high dynamic range, unbeatable low light capability, great ergonomics, the best AF on the market, and a boatload of useful AI features. The main drawback is a lack of sharpness. At the $2,200 price, the ZV-E1's rivals include the $2,200 Panasonic S5 IIx, the $2,500 Canon EOS R6 II, and Sony's own $2,500 A7 IV. All of those cameras have sharper 4K video and electronic viewfinders, so they're better hybrid cameras for both photography and video. The ZV-E1 beats them in nearly every other way though, while breaking new ground with its innovative AI features. If you're a content creator and can afford one, I wouldn't hesitate. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please hit like and subscribe. And for more on technology, check out Engadget.com.